All right, Rowland, thank you so much for the lead-in. We love being on the Black Star Network. This is Truth Talks, where we keep it all the way real. Let's go.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
Welcome to Truth Talks, the show that gives you black people arguing like we're at the barbecue. We used to be the #1 show on Fox Soul. Now we're here with Rowland Martin because we needed a blacker platform, but it's still the opinionated, unapologetic, highly black truth-telling you are used to on Truth Talks. And it would not be Truth Talks if Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was not here. Welcome, my sister.
What's up, Truth Tellers? We're here on Black Star Network, like my brother Torre said. And y'all know how we do. We're going to be covering some things. We're going to have different representation, different perspectives on things. You know, I may choose to push back on a lot of folks, or who knows, I may be a little polite to Torre today and agree with him like I do from time to time. You know what I mean? Who knows? We got to tune in to find out. Tune in to find out.
Keep it spicy. Don't make it easy for me. This is the show where we disagree. I'm old, they're young. We're left and right. We're American and Canadian. Speaking of which, there's Sarah Fontenot. Welcome.
What's up? So happy to be here. And like a barbecue, we gonna keep it spicy, okay? Truth Talks. Let's get it.
Indeed. And our other newest co-host, young big bro, Dimitri Wiley from the Lost Lover Boy podcast. Welcome.
I'm trying to be found out here in these streets. So Miss Wiley, if you're listening, you know what I'm saying? Call me.
I'm Torre. You know me. I've been in the game forever. Let's get into it. We've been talking with Trending Truths all week about Diddy. We want to give you a break from Diddy, the trial of the century. We've gone through the minutia of that. But there's another story that's going on that also a lot of people are talking about. A legend, one of my mom's favorite singers of all time, Smokey Robinson, in a lot of trouble, accused of sexual assault by 4 of his former housekeepers. A truly gruesome story. We have video from the accuser's attorney. Let's see that.
Today against Smokey Robinson. The women who used to work for him say he sexually assaulted them and created a hostile work environment, among other things. Robinson's wife is also named in the lawsuit. It details multiple allegations, some as recent as last year. One employee says Robinson sexually assaulted her at least 23 times. 3 of the women say they didn't want to report it to police, in part because they were afraid of risking the possible adverse effect on their immigration statuses, according to the suit. Another says Robinson's, quote, brutal sexual advances were constant and even predictable while she worked for him.
This is horrific. We also see the difficulty for immigrants. Like when immigration is criminalized, then they are unsafe. These people, these women felt unable to say anything, Dimitri, because if I report what happened to me, then I'm going to be in trouble. So then your accuser can get away. And you see this throughout immigration all up. But this is a Smokey Robinson story, and it's a gruesome story. Dimitri, what are you thinking?
You know, it's common. This is a common thing. It's what happens when power is in play. Power often plays on blackmail, often plays on your ability to need them to keep your secrets, or them to keep you protected, or you to keep safe from them. So the thing about it is, this is a common thing, you know, but to me, there's so many layers to this conversation, because apparently Smokey's wife was a co-conspirator in all this. Apparently there was white tile laid out on a bed, and this was a routine thing between him and his wife where she would watch and XYZ. I think this is the first time we've seen it in this case. But for me, it's pretty common now at this point.
Dr. B, this is gruesome. What do you think?
Well, you know, the legendary late Barry White is my uncle. So I grew up around men. Yeah, he's my uncle. So rest in peace. So I grew up around the Jacksons and Smokey Robertson and Glodine White, which is my auntie, and so forth. And I say all that to say, I've never experienced anything like that from Smokey. But again, you know, allegations are allegations until proven guilty, correct? My thing is, I know that what I'm hearing on the street per se is a lot of especially Black men are looking at it like, damn, you know, another one of our legends is getting taken down. And it seems like they're waiting, like Bill Cosby and many other brothers, for them to be of age to start to speak up on these experiences or these allegations. And although, of course, right, legend or not, if you are sexually abusing somebody, a crime is a crime. I'm just looking at it, how it has an impact on our community. In addition to that, I want to say that, you know, in his era, and this is not condoning sexual abuse, not condoning anything of that sort, but in their era back in that day, their climate of how they approached how they dealt with women and those things were very, very different. And so prior to the Me Too movement, men were very vulgar, not saying it's okay, and they were very more firm or sometimes aggressive with women. Post the Me Too movement, men now don't even say you're beautiful. They won't even approach you. They won't even look at you. They're like in a fear-based place when it comes to dating or approaching. So what I'm saying is that now with the Me Too movement, it's much easier for folks to say, well, look, I'm going to come out with my allegations of what happened, because now I know that there is a place for my voice to be heard. And there is a place in the courtroom where this is not normal anymore.
No, that's absolutely right. You know, you remind me of, I was on CNN right after Barry White passed. And in the introduction, the anchor is saying, well, he sang these amazing love songs, but he wasn't the best looking man. And as soon as she tossed me, I'm like, excuse me? Barry White was a beautiful man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here. But what an amazing legend. I want to hear more about that later on. This Smokey Robinson story is horrific. And Dr. B brings up the whole thing of like, are they after our legends? I know a lot of people think about that. I don't think that there is some effort to get our legends. Dr. B rightly notes some folks, Bill Cosby, others being caught when they are older. Well, yeah, that's when they flow out of their zone of power and their victims are better able to say, hey, that person did it, because you don't have as much power as you did at your zenith. I think it's really hard to deal with somebody who is at the zenith of their power. You saw Bill Kelly, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, all these sort of people, like when they're at their zenith, it's hard, right? Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, I was just going to say, and we were chatting, actually, I was having a conversation with Dimitri earlier about this that's happening. And it's wild because, you know, we were talking about, are people destroying our legends, or is it our legends' actions that are tarnishing their own brands? And I think really and truly, you said, Dr. B, you were talking about prior to the Me Too movement. I personally have been in the entertainment industry for almost 20 years, and I have effectively learned how to navigate the vulgarity that comes, because the truth is, regular men, air quotes here, regular men or normal men are much more appropriate these days, but rich men still are not, because there are still very rich and wealthy men that will say whatever they want to say because they know they can get away with it. And so even for me, a part of me is like, dang, are modern day women like getting soft, or am I just so groomed into that I've normalized that bad behavior where I learned and still do laugh it off?
This story.
Yeah, I want to say some real quick story to that, because that's a good point, Sarah, because you may laugh it off, right? And I get that, but there's other women who it is very traumatizing to. It's other women who do see it as sexual assault, and they do see it as the Me Too movement. That's how the Me Too movement was created, was women saying, listen, me too, I'm not okay with it, right? And so we got to normalize respect. We got to normalize boundaries, but we also have to normalize letting a man be a man when he is appropriate, when he is trying to approach, when he is trying to make more of a positive gesture and not a sexual assault.
This story, though, is a little bit different. I feel like we've heard most of this story before, which is not to say that it's okay. But his wife seems to be a part of this in an almost enthusiastic way, which is different than what we've heard. Quite often we've heard the wife seeming to be unaware of what's going on, or at least pretending to be unaware of what's going on. But this wife situation seems like she was like aware and like encouraging and like okay with this, because like, I'm good with him, so you like, it's all very icky and cringy, and not unlike our second story, which is not anywhere nearly as horrific, but also cringy. Viral moment out of the Cannes Film Festival. Our prince, our king, Denzel Washington, wrongly treated at Cannes when he's there for his new Spike Lee movie. Let's see the video.
ensues after a photographer grabs him to get his attention for a photo. Not a good idea. Denzel snaps, pointing his finger at the photog and sternly declaring, "Never put your hands on me."
You know, I have been on the other side of the rope, like where the photographer is at the Oscars and Golden Globes and other things. I mean, just the social feeling of like, no, you cannot touch them. Like they're on the other side of the rope. They're the stars. These are the people that we are here to talk to do our jobs. Like we have tremendous respect for them, to say nothing of Denzel at Cannes. So, Dr. B, this gets me into like, do they think so little of our bodies that they can just touch them even in incredibly inappropriate situations? I mean, Kelly Rowland went through the same thing at Cannes last year, security guard, but still the same difference. Let's hear Kelly.
The woman knows what happened. I know what happened. And I have a boundary, and I stand by those boundaries, and that is it. And there were other women that attended that carpet who did not quite look like me, and they didn't get there scolded or pushed off or told to get off. And I stood my ground, and she felt like she had to stand hers, but I stood my ground. And that's it.
Good for her. I mean, like, again, our bodies, our basic human boundaries not being respected. Will Smith had the same thing. It was 2012 on a red carpet, but look at this video.
Turn.
What's a dream of mine to hug you? Can I hug you?
Oh my God, a dream. How you? Hey, man. What the hell is your problem, buddy?
Oh, wow.
You know, I mean, like, it's just a basic disrespect of people who you are there to venerate, to cover, to interview and talk to. Your job is to talk about and talk to them. So it's kind of crazy to leap over to like disrespecting them. Dr. B, what's going on?
Well, one, I just think when you're in another country, and I say this with all due respect, when foreigners are here, or because I travel a lot and I travel abroad, they have a different boundary
in Europe.
perspective. Oh, they do. I mean, they don't have a boundary. It's very touchy-feely. They're up on you. They walk past you. They don't speak. It comes off rude, but that is their culture. Even when they come to the U.S. and we're driving in our cities, or we are at the airport with them, I've noticed that they brush by you, bump you, not say excuse me. They will just do certain things that, from my experience, is just like the foreigner forte per se. They don't have like that California, or not California, that American back up. We got boundaries. Back the fuck up.
So you don't think this is as disrespectful as we're sort of seeing?
I think it's disrespectful. I don't think it's a racial issue. I think the issue is the boundaries. When Denzel said back the hell up, don't touch me, that was a clear boundary of back the hell up. Just like Kelly Rowland, I always call it the black woman finger. When our finger comes up, the finger is the boundary. So once we do this, just understand what follows this is a boundary.
But to your point, Sarah, Dr. B is noticing, okay, there's different mores in Europe, which is absolutely true. I definitely think you're right that their sense of social space is
very
a little less, right? So maybe this white photographer is not intending to be disrespectful with the first touch, but Denzel lays down a clear marker. That is not for me. And he does it. The photographer does it again. So now I feel like we're beyond like, oh, Europeans are different. I told you don't touch me, and he touched him again. So where are we then, Sarah?
I think that it's full-blown entitlement, and I think that it's entitlement to celebrities, because I am on such a small scale, but from small experience, I've been at dinner with my family, or I've been out in intimate spaces with my girls, and people will walk directly into my face and say, hey, can we take a picture? We have to, not even, sometimes they don't even ask, let's take a picture, right? And so there's a level of entitlement because they're so used to seeing you that they treat you like they know you. They treat you like you're anybody everybody else. And not to say that that's okay. And then on top of that, like Dr. B said, being in a different country, from personal experience, I was in Rome at this live show, watching the show. The show was amazing. I'm looking at all the musicians. I'm watching them play the music. I'm like singing along, dancing in my chair. I go to the washroom and I come out of the washroom. When I'm there, one of the musicians, literally, we had made eye contact while he was on stage. And I guess he thought that meant give it a go. He literally tried to kiss me near the washroom. Quite literally. Now, this is the thing. Maybe that's normal over there, but it's not normal over here. So I think that it's a level of entitlement because you're a celebrity. You're supposed to do these things. You're supposed to take pictures with me. You're supposed to see me. And then also the physical boundaries are a little bit different. I don't think it's a racial thing either.
D, go.
The thing about it is, I do think it's a racial thing. That's me personally. I do understand the celebrity aspect of it, how celebrities aren't necessarily granted humanity. I get that part. But when respectability will not protect you when the world views your black skin as public property. No matter how much people think they know you, the idea of it is they feel like what I see, could have never been a black reporter grabbing any of them. I don't think any of them are isolated incidents. I think it's the idea of not only entitlement, but remember you're black. That's what I see.
In our politicking segment, the Trump administration is making it harder for some black communities to access clean water because they've terminated an old civil rights settlement, dismissing it as DEI. So now people are at risk for severe health challenges. In Alabama, there is feces in the water. You cannot drink it. Look at that golden brown water there. Like, that is disgusting. To say nothing that Flint still lacks clean water. And, you wonder if there's something larger. We talked about the disrespect of black bodies. This is, again, the disrespect of black bodies and black people and black communities. But you wonder if there's something even more insidious going on, Dimitri, in terms of are they doing this sort of thing to get at us, to mess with us, because they know our birth rate is outpacing theirs. So maybe there's some higher plan of let's really screw with them on a physical, neurological level so they can't ever get strong.
Absolutely. To me, it seems like they're defunding survival and then blaming the sick for not succeeding. That's what I see. From Flint to Alabama, all the way from, it starts to feel like the new Jim Crow. Unseen, unspoken, and deadly.
Yeah, Sarah, they are eliminating or slicing and dicing with Medicaid. So the ability to get help when you are poor is being taken away. And adverse chemicals being introduced into your community. I mean, this is a death spiral. Sarah.
She's on mute.
I was unmuted. I couldn't agree with you more in the sense where sometimes, I don't think it's necessarily throwing away the blacks as much as it is throwing away the impoverished people. It's so to suppress those that are in poverty. And, I think about the Flint whole situation, how they still don't have clean water. Well, right. You know what? That happened in 2014. We're now in 2025, and they just got paid a $626 million settlement, but only 80% went to the people that actually had the claims. And it's no different inside of Alabama. And the problem and the thing that we really need to rally against is what this dirty water is causing. It's causing cholera. It's causing diarrhea, dysentery. It's causing typhoid, hepatitis A, polio. There are so many different things that this water can do, bacteria, even death. Let's just keep it real. That's as bad as it gets. That's worst case scenario. Or worst case scenario could be living with a disability, illness, or ailment because you didn't have a basic human resource. Like water, everybody should have an opportunity to have clean water.
We talk a lot about Trump and we see how dumb he is and we call him a clown and all these sort of things. But not everybody around him is dumb or a clown. And when you have someone like Stephen Miller, who is evil, but smart and insidious and horrible, he's the sort of person, this has Stephen Miller fingerprints on it to me. He's the sort of person who would be yeah, let's put dirty water in Black communities because he thinks like, oh, they're lesser and like, who cares about them? Dr. B?
To your point, love you, Dr. Sarah, love you, sis, but this ain't about throwing away no impoverished people. This is called environmental racism, straight up. That's exactly what it is. The Trump administration earlier this year got rid of a settlement. That settlement was for public health because there was a public health crisis, not for DEI. They made it DEI because Flint and Alabama are what? Predominantly Black. So, of course, DEI and Black people to the Trump administration and many other people are tied in. They're married. So what am I saying? Is that this movement to allow shit and feces to be in water is about an environmental crisis, which is a direct environmental systemic racism move on behalf of these people. And the sad part is they cut funding from this settlement. So the Alabama health official said, look, we're going to continue to try to fix this septic system, but we're running out of money. So this ain't going to last us too freaking long. And guess who doesn't give a damn about that? This administration. So I'm going to say it once and I'm going to say it loud. This is an environmental racism problem.
No, I think that's absolutely right. Dimitri, it is hard to live in Black communities, partly because of stuff like this. We are over-policed. We are under-resourced. Quite often we are in food deserts. And then you get environmental racism like this, that this specifically can lead to neurological damage in children. A lot of the kids in Flint who went through all this crap the last decade, neurologically damaged. You're never going to get past that. Like that will affect you your entire life. This is a real tragedy and yet another challenge of living in a Black community.
Oh, absolutely. I think now is the time we actually start to do something. All these fundraisers and everything, the United States themselves has the money to fund and fix these problems. That's because the thing about it is you can't drink diversity reports. You cannot clean wounds with fucking press conferences. You gotta actually get out and do something. But the thing about it is, if it's systemic, if this is intentional, there's your problem. They want it to last. Because to Dr. Brian's point, if it's environmental racism, it's done for a reason on their end. But we should step up as well to do something.
Sarah, what do you want us to do for us to make this a little bit better?
Man, I want us to rally together and fight one thing at a time, because if we literally sit here and try to fight every systemic issue that we have, every white oppression that we have, all of these different problems, we will never get anything done. It's true. It's too many different directions being pulled in. So I think that it would be really powerful, just the people, we the people, I'm not talking about legislature or policies, but if just we as the people would start rallying against one issue at a time. We need water. What do we need to do? Okay, well, we're going to stunt what we purchase over here, because although we are the biggest consumers in this nation, that's also one of our superpowers. Because if at any moment we decided as Black people to stop purchasing from any one thing, we will immediately stunt the growth and income that company that whatever is making. If we chose to work together, oh, you guys don't want to help us with the water, we're going to stunt this in the grocery stores. We're going to stunt this in the stock market. We're going to stunt this, because that's the only way to really get change when it comes to white people. They care about the money. How can we make that hurt so that they want to make a change?
I love that idea. And we tried a little Target boycott as a community a little while ago and had some effect. But here's the thing. What we've been doing is announcing we're going to have a boycott on Friday, and it's going to last 3 days or a week, whatever it is. So what that does is it gives the corporation time to get prepared. It gives them time to say, don't worry about the numbers here because they're boycotting us. And we know when it's going to end. A real boycott the company would not know it's coming. They would not know how long it's going to be. They would not know they would be freaking out like we are, but we are giving them too much information.
That's good. That goes back to the Black war room. right? That goes back to us coming together as a community and strategizing the plan together, not just putting it on social media. Actually, like you're saying, don't put it on social media at all. We need to come together as a community and rally against one thing at a time. What is the most pressing? And then work our way back, make majorities, have votes, like really make it like this is the community village where we are trying to do the best for the colony. But I think that a lot of us are more selfish than anything else, or we're just stuck in our own day and lives.
So wait a minute. Now you give me a beautiful lead in there to the main topic, right? Because we've been talking about community, and what we kind of want to talk about as we broaden this out a little bit is gentrification and why gentrification is bad, or if it even is bad. A lot of times when we're talking about gentrification, we're talking generally about poorer communities, quite often in the middle of cities, inner cities that we used to call them, where developers come in, new housing, new businesses, you get a Starbucks, you get a glass apartment building, you get a new Target, you get a new Apple store, and the community value rises and the usage of the community rises. The property value rises. New people, white people, move into the commute, right? Move into the area. We decided in this country, we're going to make inner cities or city areas much more livable. And we have done that. Now, this is great in many ways because it makes the world, like I live in an area, I've been in this area in Brooklyn, Fort Greene, Spike Lee used to live here, his early films. Like the 6, 7 early films were set here or shot here. So you know what this looks like. In the 20, 30 years I've been living here, I've seen an Apple store come in, a Target, an Alamo. So I mean, this neighborhood has like grown and changed. It's whiter. It's more affluent than it used to be. In a lot of ways, that is better. But at the same time, that displaces a lot of the consistent community and culture and the people who have lived there. Quite often, gentrification means poor people have to move to another area, right? They might have been in that area for generations. Now you have to move somewhere further away from work, further away from the city, which is hard for them. They may lose money in the economic change, all these sort of things. Dr. B, gentrification is complicated for our communities.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. You know, although there are some perks of gentrification, you know, it does create a loss of affordable housing. It does increase crime. It does create a social inequity, okay, and inequality. And you do get a loss of cultural diversity within those areas. However, right, gentrification, it provides a convenience, right? It does come in and clean up or beautify a deteriorated neighborhood so that you can attract higher income residents and businesses. Now, let's go residents and businesses for a moment, right? You have folks who are homeowners, like in my neighborhood where I live, it's a 92% homeowner rate. What does that mean? Whenever you have more homeowners, you have lower crime rate, you have better school systems, and you have neighborhoods and communities where people feel safe and we commune more. That's just the truth of it. Now
you care more about the community because they are financially committed to it.
They have skin in the game and they are investing in that community by paying those property taxes for that city to be beautified and for their home to be well kept, right? But then what happens? Okay, you have taxes that increase. You have folks who can't afford the cost of living in that area because in order to bring in this gentrification, you got to have money that you put into it. And then you have to expect folks who live in it to pay higher tax rates so that they can kind of pay back the gentrification that you just did. So it does push out a lot of our people. But I think the bigger question is, how do we help our people help themselves become more socioeconomically stable and established so that gentrification becomes a convenience for them and not a hardship where they end up more impoverished than they were before? Because what I've learned, and I'll land on this, is you know, because as NAACP president, we talk about the gentrification thing a lot, and I happen to be one that is for it. And because I'm the one that's for it, I get a lot of pushback from my counterparts because they're saying, Doc, what do you mean? White people are coming in and taking over our communities? I'm saying, but yes, many of our communities are suffering from, you know, just the high crime rate. We're suffering from the inability to even have public transportation. We're suffering from the inability to have a grocery store versus a liquor store on the corner. So there's a lot of things that we have to look at as a group of people to say, listen, is it working for us and we are not able to work ourselves in it, or is it working against us because we are having to move ourselves out of something that, you know, we can actually try to become a part of and make it a convenience to our lifestyle. I think it can add to the quality of our lives if we can figure out a way to blend with it and not go against it.
But Doc, it adds to the lives of middle class, upper class Black people who can afford these gentrified prices for homes and lattes and other such things. It
Absolutely.
doesn't help our working class brothers and sisters who cannot afford to continue to live in these communities and have to move out of them, right? And the gentrified communities tend to be safer. They are more expensive, but they are absolutely safer. And yet our communities are just displaced. Put up the picture again with the different houses, and you see the difference between pre-gentrification and post-gentrification. They're not respecting the community, right? They're not respecting the people who live there. So there is a challenge. I find it hard to understand why you're like, I'm pro-gentrification when it is nuanced and complicated. I understand the value of gentrification for some people, and it is very difficult and dangerous for some Black people as well.
Yeah, because you know why? When I go into our inner cities, you know what I see? I'm a little girl from the inner city. I grew up in the hood. Very proud to say that. Went from the hood to the hills. When I walk around in my neighborhood as a child, when I go back to it to give back, because I give back all the time as much as I can, I still see the same rhetoric where there hasn't been gentrification at. There's still a liquor store on every corner. We still have a high rise in homelessness. We still have a high rise in addiction. We still have a high rise in crime. And we still have a very low socioeconomic well-being. We also have a low level public safety, and people are not able to get healthy food, so not able to get resources that they need. You have a lot of the community centers that are supposed to be created for resources, not available, shutting down. We just my organization just put a skate park in a city called Harbor City, which is a very rural inner city in the hood for these kids. You know why? Because in there's no gentrification, but there's also nobody making investments in that neighborhood so that these folks can have a better quality of life. So there is negatives to it. I hear it, but there also has to become a time, Torre, y'all, where we have to be able to move and evolve as a people out of the poverty, out of the middle class, or at least out of the poverty, and start to allow our environments to look like more of a resourceful, a good quality of life that we all deserve, but we all can't afford.
I think, and this is just my opinion, I believe it's a double-edged sword. You grab it from one way you cut, you grab it from another way you cut. Because the idea of the hood, I grew up in the hood my whole life. West side of Chicago, if you come here, they refer to it as 290, XYZ, blah, blah, blah. But the reason the hood is because there's less ownership there, right? Ownership will benefit from gentrification. It's not cleaning up the hood if you have to remove the people.
Right.
In order for them to enjoy it. You understand what I'm saying? It does not make sense. If you're literally, for some people, for the middle class, like you said, Tori, for the middle class, yes, it's a coffee shop. For others, it's a fucking eviction note behind the coffee.
Right.
It's different. And the thing about it is my grandmother was barely paying her mortgage, barely. Ended up taking out a second mortgage, XYZ. And granted, I was a lot younger at the time. Proud to say I now own that home that my grandmother grew up in. Amazing. But the thing about it is, it's in that neighborhood in Chicago that they're trying to gentrify. It's right next to the United Center out here where the Bulls play. So for me, I've witnessed it firsthand. I've witnessed a Starbucks pop up out of nowhere, but still next to a liquor store. And the thing about it is, I think this conversation is a double-edged sword because if you do not have the money to sit in the gentrification, you'll never enjoy the gentrification.
That's right. I remember going to Philadelphia around Baltimore around the Freddie Gray situation. We covered that. So I was there for a week, like really understood Baltimore. There is like a line, a DMZ that is not crossed. There is a gentrified harbor where there's nice stores and nice cute homes, and the hood don't go there. You can, Like you can get there in 20 minutes, but the hood doesn't go there. They just hang out in the hood. They're not really wanted there. So, I mean, when we have gentrification, it beautifies things for the middle class and the upper class. It doesn't really do anything for the working class. They're just left out in the cold. They're just exiled somewhere else. And look, Tyler Perry is an interesting part of this whole gentrification conversation. He went into his community in Georgia, built this amazing studio where they filmed Black Panther and all these other things. But he didn't just forget about the people around him, because when something like that comes into a community, the property value of everybody around him is going to be raised immensely. But if you can't afford the new property taxes because your house is much more valuable, then you're going to be priced out. He was so smart and thoughtful that he thought of that and paid their taxes for 20 years into the future to take care of, so they wouldn't be displaced the way that gentrification generally displaces people. That is really powerful and beautiful. There are not Tyler Perry's for every community. We will need other ways to save ourselves beyond having a billionaire come in and make it Wakanda. And Atlanta's not even Wakanda anymore, Dimitri. But you know, Dr. B, what are some of the ways that we can do things at the grassroots level to improve our communities and get more of what we need from the political system?
I love that question, because that's exactly where I was going, Ray. So as a representative and president of NAACP here, we work with elected officials. I'm also a commissioner for our assemblymen, as well as a California Democratic delegate elected official. So what do? I work with the elected officials to make sure that the developers who are coming into our cities and developing have to contribute or donate a percentile of that development that they will be making money from back into the community. What does that mean? That they have to promise to invest in low income housing within the jurisdiction of where they are developing, or guess what? They do not get the okay from the city council to develop in that area. Why? Because a lot of elected officials were doing pay to play. If you pay me some money, then you can go ahead and play in my jurisdiction and build and develop certain things. And that right there was killing us. The sad part about it is it's not just white politicians who were doing it. You got Black and brown politicians who were letting white developers come in, pay them a nice little amount, shut them up, and build up everything. And now you got politicians who are becoming career politicians and millionaires once they retire, and developers who are coming in, and no one is in the service position that elected official is meant to be in. So long story short, we are making sure that developers have to donate and contribute to the jurisdiction where they're building, to the community of people who they are already building in. And they have to make sure that they keep somewhat of the culture that was already there, whether they let people do like, you know, art, they call graffiti art here in Los Angeles on the walls in that community, right? Or they have to add some type of like whatever culture that was there. So yeah, those are some of the resolutions that we've implemented.
Yeah, graffiti is art. Absolutely. Dimitri, go ahead.
I'm gonna speak to the exact same point from a different standpoint. And I briefly touched on it before we had our technical difficulties, but not just me. I was not the only one who purchased my great grandmother's home. She owned it since 1970. I purchased it because no one in my family was willing to do so until I was of age. But me and 3 of my friends now own property that was in our family to keep it there. We refused to lose it to the city. I refused to watch all the hard work and fight my grandmother put up go to waste, because what was going to happen is someone was going to move on in. A 4-layer brick building would have been bought in seconds. Her property is now valued at over $800,000. So it's not just what the city can do, it's what the people can do. It's when you care, when you actually put the thought in saying, because I can't control, I grew up in poverty, but I can control what happens after the fact.
You're 28?
Yes.
How hard was it to get the cash to buy? You bought an $800,000 house?
No, so what I did personally, my grandmother still owned maybe $50,000 left on this building. So quick claimed it over to me, paid the $50,000, reconstruction loan, fixed the whole building.
See, that's
Go on,
how
Dimitri.
we
Go
help
on.
each other and pass on. Because so often in our communities, there's something we call a negative inheritance, right? White people generally don't have this. We generally have to take care of our elders near the end of life. And that drags us down financially. We love them, so we do it out of our heart. But like whereas white people quite often are experiencing inheritance. They get money from their elders to start a business or to pay a down payment for a home. So they're moving forward. So I love that you are part of that. Quickly, Dimitri, when you are in the dating scene and you are telling women, "Hey, I own a home," is that not a super green flag?
You know, I hate to put a flex on it, but it ain't the only one I own. And, hey, listen, I'm proud to be a black man. I'm proud. I know y'all call me young, but I want to touch on this because I don't want to make it sound too easy. There is a lot of things that you have to jump through as a young black man. I started to develop my credit at 16 years old. I attempted to learn from a negative space as a child. My parents didn't have it like that. My friends didn't have it like that, but it was conversations amongst our friendship growing up that we can do better. And it's wanting to do it. Of course, I had to deal with my grandmother and her. I don't know if you really know, but when they get above 80, they get like a territorial, your heart's connected to this building. And it was my dream, my all-time goal, my desire in life to make sure this woman sees this building in its glory days so she can remain comfortable. That was and it was not easy. I don't want to preach that it's easy, but you can learn.
Sarah, you know the real estate space probably better than anybody in this conversation. Let's talk a little bit about how more people, young people, can be like Dimitri and begin to own, because if we create more black home ownership, that is the path to communal wealth.
Well, what I love is that he's talking about what was already owned in his bloodline, right? So you're starting with a lesser hurdle, because instead of it costing $800,000, he probably put $150,000-$200,000 into this house, which is so much more manageable than that 800,000 number. And so one thing that I do want to address is, why are our neighborhoods getting run down in the first place? And like I said before, there's definitely, there's a perk to gentrification in the sense where we get better shopping centers, better healthcare, better school zones. There's so better stores, better food options. It's not just fast food everywhere. We definitely do have that, but I would actually challenge you, Torre, that it's not just the working class, but it's also the middle class that gap is created between them and the upper middle class and the upper class, right? Because they really and truly can't afford to be there. So it is this double-edged sword. And I feel like we really have to stop blaming the white man for everything, because the truth is, a lot of us don't know how to take care of our stuff. A lot of No, let me just say this, because when I go to my great aunt Marge's, okay, I lived with my great aunt for 3 years in Compton. She's the one that taught me about credit. She's the one that taught me how to make a bed. She told me, Sarah, a man will never love you if you don't make your bed. She gave me real, raw, unfiltered, right? Yes, thank you, Aunt Marge. I say that to say, when I go to my Aunt Marge's house, she still has the couch with the plastic on it.
Oh my God.
Has the running carpets that you have to walk on. Don't you dare step off of that carpet. Shout out to you, Aunt Marge, for keeping your stuff together. She still has, she has cleaners that come and dust. And when it started, it was a 2-bedroom house with a kitchen, and it was so small. She's expanded on her land that she has. She's added an additional sitting area, a whole additional room in the back area. Like, she's taken what she's had and she's expanded with it because she takes care of her stuff. And I do want to challenge that a lot of us Black folks, especially impoverished Black folks, don't take care of the things that we have. And God does no mess.
That is not my experience, Sarah. Not my experience that poorer people don't take care of their things. I think many of them absolutely do. I don't want to make a generalization about every single person, but I think a lot of them take very good care of the small number of things that they have. I don't want to cast aspersions on my working class brothers and sisters, but just to pull back for a second, I think that what happened to inner cities in our country is that when we in the 50s, when we were more of a manufacturing nation, the notion was have factories in the city because that's where you could afford. You get lots of workers would live in easy working distance of the factory. A lot of those would be working class people because working class people tend to work in the factory. So they wanted to be near the factory. And the Great Migration sent a lot of Black people from the South to Chicago, New York, LA, where they worked in inner cities. many of them didn't have much money. So yes, these neighborhoods were difficult, right? And white people, especially the white power structure, made them more difficult. As we go into the 90s and the 80s and 90s, and we're moving away from manufacturing, America does not make anything anymore. The inner cities start to revitalize. Gentrification, they look nice again. So, Black people shunted out to the outer areas of these cities. So it's not like our fault that we were pushed into the inner cities because that's what we were better for workers, and then we're pulled out when that's better for white people.
I love this idea. A good friend Jody of mine once referred to me as a Black unicorn, and I take it, I hold it dear to my heart. I appreciate it. But understand this. The thing about it is, and Miss Sarah, I love you dearly, but I have to completely disagree. I have to completely walk the other direction. For me, I am a product of all I did not see. That's the rarity. That's the only one rarity I can give you.
What do you mean?
What people don't understand is,
what does that mean?
When you're born into poverty, right? This is generational. It doesn't just abruptly come to an end one day unless someone makes a difference. My parents didn't have the means to do so. Imagine saying, okay, I'll change these windows and these gutters and worry about the outside of this house, but you barely got money to put in your refrigerator. That's the difference. You barely got money to make it to work. You can't build up the wealth of this building because I got to worry about real shit. Keeping the goddamn lights on for the kids. That was my parents' experiences. And all I'm saying is I can never slay them for that. I've witnessed my parents change and become generationally better than what they've had to deal with from learning from their child. My mother will tell you. So
right.
There we go.
You have to be a little more careful with the words you spewing.
No, Dimitri, I challenge that. I'm not saying that it's a choice. I'm saying I'm not even talking about necessarily the expansion of your homes. I'm talking about taking care of what you have. I come from poverty. We went from a 2-family income household to one because my dad ruptured a disc in his back when I was 10 years old. And I saw my mom have a full-time job, going to school full-time to get her master's in engineering, all of us kids taking care of my dad and also trying to make sure that we weren't homeless. So I'm not saying I'm a stranger to freaking poverty. I know what it's like to even moving to America, I had to choose between, was I going to put gas in my car or food in my fridge? I was that girl that was digging in the couch trying to find change so I could put $3 on pump 5, and not because I was in a rush, but because this was literally all that I had. And in spite of that, I had to learn.
Have you ever had 4 kids and got an eviction note?
I have an eviction note every month.
This is reality for a lot of people I know. This wasn't my parents, but this is a reality for a lot of people.
I'm not saying it's not the reality. What I'm saying is we have to do a better job of taking care of our stuff, because what happens? Let me finish.
We never owned it. A lot of these people in the hood are in apartments. Cabrini Green is an apartment.
This is exactly why gentrification is happening. Because if you don't own it, you don't take care of it, it gets run down. And so now you're trying to hold on to something that's falling apart.
I want to put out one idea, and I know Dimitri knows about this. Poverty is expensive.
Yes.
Poverty costs money in and of itself, right? Like people are overcharging poor people. There's late fees. There's all these ways that being poor costs you money. So when we're talking about poor people, you're basically talking about poor people not getting the most out of their money. But their money is running them. They are not running their money. So to blame them for a situation where they're
about the money, Torre. This is what I'm saying. The stuff that you have, take care of it. Take care of the things that you can afford. Because if you don't have to have the Rolls Royce or the Mercedes Benz or the BMW. You don't have to have that. You could have the 2001 Camry, but you clean your car. It's not you have stains on your carpet and dust inside of your vents. It's you take care of yourself and you take care of your stuff. And a lot of us, we're so tired and we're so exhausted and we're so impoverished that now it's for us not to just
hold on. Let me go a step higher.
I listened to the show as we're doing it, and that sister right there said she has no poor friends. All her friends are rich.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say she contradicted herself. I was just gonna say that. But that's not what I was gonna say. The bigger picture is
because I want to clarify that really quick. I didn't grow up inside of privilege. I came from poverty and love. I built my privilege. I built my businesses from the ground up. Literally, I got sued for $3,500 worth of late fees because in my Hollywood apartment that I lived in for 4 years, I only paid my rent twice on time. So I know what it's like to be there. That's why I don't want to hear excuses about it.
Got it. Let me go. Hold on. Let me go bigger really quick. That's Hollywood. Let me go.
Hollywood to
the hood, to the inner city. Two bit different things. But let me say this really quick. Hold on. When we're talking about taking care of our stuff, and we're talking about taking care of family, and we're talking about generational wealth, and we're talking about ownership, is what I hear all of y'all saying collectively. Okay. That is more than just owning a property in the inner city.
Yes.
That's also having life insurance for your children.
Sure.
Okay. That's also teaching Dimitri's son how he created this real estate portfolio. Okay. My father passed away. He was a hood dude. Went from the hood to a well-off businessman. So he made it out the hood. I got a check in the mail. Didn't even know. Life insurance, 2 different checks. I bawled my eyes out. Not because the amount was nice, because my father thought of me post his death. My father thought of me. I ain't telling you. My father thought of me in his legacy in creating after death. That life insurance check is important to kids. Second thing is, we didn't have to spend $1 on my father's funeral, his plot, or anything. You know why? Because to Sarah's point, he took care of his shit. My grandmother, who I took care of in hospice till her last breath 2 years ago, dying from cancer, guess what? We didn't have to pay $1 for hers. You know why? Because she took care of her shit. Now, let me go further. She didn't own a property. She didn't own a business, but she damn sure had life insurance that covered herself so that when she passed away, she did not leave us in debt and we were not in a deficit. Had I paid for it? Hell yeah, I would have paid for it. But the fact that I didn't is what I call privilege, is what I call generational wealth, is what I call taking care of each other. Now, I bought my first house at 19 and created a hell of a real estate portfolio up until right now. I bought an estate 4 years ago and I just built out a compound, which means I have 4 houses on one property in Los Angeles where all of our family can live here. Why? Because that's how you create generational wealth. That's how I let my children that are not even born yet, called preparation and planning for my kids before I have them. I say, listen, all y'all got a place on this one compound. So I don't want to hear anything when mama leaves, in the event I don't get the opportunity to continue to and create. So what I was saying is that it is our responsibility to create and make sure there is equity for the family that we are going to birth and for the family that is here. Dimitri is doing it well. Dimitri is doing it well, Corey.
Dimitri, we have established that Dr. Brian is rich. That's fine. Thank you for making that clear.
I will say I was a little girl from the hood to the hills, and I definitely went from poor to middle class to a rich BITCH. And I'm going to stand on that shit because I worked my ass off to get here.
Here's the thing, Dimitri. Sarah keeps making the point about why don't poor people be cleaner? You're pretty green, right?
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
I mean, like, is there a problem? You've been in the hood? You've been in the PJs. Is there a problem? Are we keeping it clean in the PJs or not?
You know the thing about the hood that a lot of people misunderstand. The hood is literally saying, okay, what y'all telling me is, why don't I make my bed when my room's fucking filthy? The thing about it is, Dr. B, you said something about life insurance. Well, fuck life insurance when you can't afford car insurance. Fuck life insurance when you can't afford living. People, I don't think people understand this though. But to your point, Torre, are we keeping it clean? I'll be honest with you. No, they're not. But the thing about it is, it does not matter if it's clean if you barely have it. The dealership, when they come repo your car, they don't give a fuck if it's car washed or not. It's getting taken. And that's the thing. People are literally making life-changing split decisions with the money they're making. And I don't know if y'all know.
Why is it getting taken, Dimitri? Why is it getting taken? Whose responsibility is it to upkeep the things that they obtain? Whose responsibility is it? I'm asking a general question to us all. Whose responsibility is it?
Can I say it is an absolute cop-out? Okay. And I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off because I know that the struggle is not easy, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And one of the things that we all have to realize is y'all talking about, yeah, I moved from Canada, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada to Los Angeles. I moved to Hollywood, California. My rent was $781. And every single month I was late to pay my rent. Every single month I was calling around trying to see if I could get help. Every single month I was hustling, trying to figure it out. And you know what? Inside of trying to figure it out, even though I was crying myself to sleep at night, I was putting a plan in place. I may have started broke. It's like the quote that says, if you were born broke, that is not your fault. But if you die broke, that is absolutely your fault. And then if we continue to regurgitate that rhetoric that because it's hard and that you don't have enough money to live your life, that then it's okay for you not to have life insurance.
I don't think
for you to not take care of your stuff. It's not okay.
And I don't
And,
think
what,
it's
and hold on, Torre,
it's
because to Sarah's point, I said something very significant. I said my father was a street guy. And even though he was a street guy, he still invested in life insurance. You know why? Because he knew the lifestyle he was living. And it may have not been a promised one. So I want to say this to Dimitri, though, because Dimitri and I do have something in common. We both do come from the inner city. We both are little kids from the hood that happen to do damn well for our family and make it out. So I totally understand you when you say, listen, you know, when you're trying to pay your car note, you're just trying to see if you can get to a free clinic because you ain't got health insurance. You're just trying to see how you can get to high school, how you can get to the next stop from the 72 bus and get a transfer to the next one. I totally get it. But let me say this. There's people like you and there's people like me who figured out with a strong internal locus what kind of plan was needed for us to navigate through that, Dimitri. And guess whose responsibility that was? It was yours. And guess whose responsibility it was for me? It was mine. When I tell my story, I don't just give props to the people who raised me. I give props to Cheyenne Nicole Bryant, and I give props to Dimitri Wiley. What I'm saying is that just like we held ourselves responsible to make sure that we did something with the crumbs that we had and made a loaf out of it, people still got to be able to figure out how to do it, Dimitri. And people like you and me, we are responsible for going back and saying, bruh, sis, I see you and me. This is how I did it. Maybe this is a tool that can help you do it. It's not about leaving them hanging, but we got to hold them accountable. We got to hold people in our neighborhood accountable.
I salute you, Sarah, Dimitri. My father's also projects to having his own business and creating the pathway for my life. He lived in a project right over there, right on the other side of the park in the area where I live now in like a nice home, which is like this amazing, generational leap. But we're not really dealing with the fact that being poor and being in poverty is in and of itself traumatizing. And I applaud you, Sarah, for being able to have a long-term plan in that situation. But a lot of people who are in that situation aren't able to long-term plan because the money and the economic opportunities are so few, and they're constantly fighting with the things they've already bought. The basic bills, not talking about I went out and bought Jordans, I bought an expensive television. So about the basic bills, and
for their lack of exposure, lack of exposure to other things outside of the inner city.
Guys,
go ahead, Sarah.
Guys, when I moved here, do you understand that my credit score was a 508? Because having no credit is worse than having bad credit. So I couldn't rely on the credit system. I couldn't rely on my parents. I couldn't rely on my friends. And this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that every excuse isn't valid. They probably are so valid. However, they don't give you a result. And so when we're talking about gentrification, we cannot continue to blame the white man. We've got to blame our own decisions and not being willing to do the work necessary.
Here's the thing. If some people escape, absolutely, and good for them. And I'm glad we use the word escape because it is hard, right? It's not easy. What my father did, what Cheyenne's father did, is very, very difficult. We have a situation where people are born with no financial resources, right? Their family doesn't have any. They're born and they go to a crappy school. Now they're in the workforce. Maybe they lived in a shitty neighborhood where there was the drug trade, because that often happens in shitty neighborhoods because that is a good employer for a lot of people. So I caught a felony. I wasn't even in the gang, but I was out when everybody else was. I caught a felony. So now I can't even get a great. So now I've been boxed in by mass incarceration, by bad education, by general segregation. And I'm 24, 25. I have a shit education. I have a felony. And Sarah's going, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And I'm like,
and get on YouTube and learn something. Get around people. Put yourself in environments where people are winning. There are so many free seminars. Do the work. Go to the library. I used to take the bus 2.5 hours one way, actually 2 trains and a bus. No, 2 buses and a train one way, 2 hours in one way, 3 hours ride back so I could go to my mentor to learn. If you want it, you will do it. That's it. And most people want their excuses and they're comfortable inside of that trauma more than they want the result.
I'm gonna spin this back one time, and I'm gonna take it back to gentrification for a second, because the thing about this is all of this is explaining why people in the inner city, in the hood, can't remain there when gentrification takes place. If the answers that y'all spewing to me is saying it's a choice because you did not choose to seek better help, when he just explained to you exactly the box life traps you in before you're at the age of 16 years old. You know how many people I know start selling drugs just to help their mama? Like, what are we talking about? It's not a choice. It's not a seminar you could take. There's nothing you can do to escape what the hood traps you in before you're 18 years old. So you cannot afford to remain there when gentrification takes place. I'm not saying I'm against gentrification.
Doc,
I just know.
Doc, I could be in the hood right now. But for my father was 16. He had a child, and he was running around carrying a gun. In the 1950s, that was huge. Guns were not late 1950s, early 60s. The guns were not proliferated the same way they are now. So that was a huge deal. His mother, when he was 17, said, "We are changing your life," and they went from Brooklyn to Boston when in his last year at high school, completely changed his life, right? He was probably on a path to jail or something. So somebody cared enough about him to make a significant choice that would change his life, probably against his wishes, right? He left the child that he had in another city, right? That's his story, and we can tell it another day. But it's not easy to get out of poverty. And yes, there are pathways, but these are hard. And I
Touré, what I'm gonna say
out of it, but I don't want to demonize or look down.
Yeah, we want to demonize the people who got out, but I do want to say this, Touré. I want to say that, you know, when I was growing up, there was a store called Payless. I don't know if y'all remember that.
For
maybe
sure.
they're too young, but Touré, you would remember this, right?
Now.
Yeah, we had Payless, right? So what I did as a little girl was I went to Payless and bought me some real cheap shoes because it didn't matter what name brand or the price they were. And they happened to be sneakers. I call them track shoes. I laced them bitches up. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I was going to get the hell out of there. I knew where I wanted to get away from. When I laced them sneakers up, which today people see heels, I still got them on. I ran as far as I can away from what I did not want to be. And as soon as I took off running, God did something real special that he does with people who have faith. He started to order my steps, and I started to take one step at a time. What am I saying? What am I saying to you is that, I am saying what it sounds like Sarah was saying. Find you a Payless, find you a dollar store, find you a Walmart, find you a Target, find you a liquor store, get you some sneakers, lace some things up, and guess what? Run your ass out of what you don't want. You just might run into what you do want. So what I am saying is, yes, grab your bootstraps. What I am saying is that pull them up. What I am saying is that get some internal luckus. What I am saying is that get so mad, get so upset, get so unhappy with the environment that you're in, like Demetrius said he did, of seeing everything you don't want to be, and run the hell away from what you don't want to be. You just might end up like Demetria. You just might end up like me or Sarah and run into the things that you do want to be. You have to take an action, whether it's knowing where you're going or knowing what you're getting away from. But you can't just sit there and say, I'm not responsible for doing nothing. I totally push back on that.
Quickly, because we're getting out of here. Who's responsible for the state of our neighborhoods?
We are. You are, Touré. You are, Demetria. You are, Dr. Sarah, and I am. Absolutely, we are.
No, it's white people. It's white people. It's always white people. The correct answer is always white people.
And you'll always be powerless, and you'll always be at their footstool if you think like that. So sorry that you have that limited thinking.
White, it's not limited. I have an understanding of the game. White supremacy is in control of our system.
Of you. It's in control of you. It's not in control of me.
If I could play
devil's advocate, you too. You're just not admitting it.
It's in control of you. It's in control of you because you fall prey to that, because maybe you need a little more hood in your life, but it's not in control of me, baby.
No, I am completely aware of the
You're
actual
very
reality of
unaware.
the politics of the country.
You're
If I
very
could be a
unaware,
devil's
because if
advocate.
you were aware, you will understand that it does not control you. You have a mind that's not in captivity. But as long as you have that slave mindset, Stockholm syndrome, then you can say that the man who's white runs you. I don't have the same narrative. You keep yours, and I'm gonna keep mine.
You
Mine
can
is more
make
important.
up whatever narrative you want,
No,
but they
you
have
can say
all the
what you-
money, they have
And
all
you
the
can
power,
say
they
what you
run
can
all
need
the
to,
companies. Like,
you
you're
can
just-
say what you need to stay an inferior black man to the superior white man, but I still will love you
There's
and have
no,
your
no,
back.
no, no,
And
no.
that's not
There's
the
no
narrative.
superiority.
That's not
they
the
are not
narrative.
inferior to us. They have more
You're
power
infe-
than us. They have more
We
money
are,
than
you
us.
are inferior to your problem, my love. You are inferior to your problem. You are powerless to your problem, my
Well,
love.
yes, I am inferior to white
Very
supremacy.
much.
Absolutely. My
There
problem
you
is
go.
greater than me. I cannot
I just said
super
it.
my problem, which is white supremacy. That is the biggest. White supremacy
And
will always be
You're
the biggest
inferior
problem that
to
black
it.
people
So we
have.
agree. We agree. You're inferior to it. We agree. I am not. That is not my narrative at all. At all.
Can I please?
Yeah, D.
I'm gonna tell y'all two things about the hood that y'all don't know if y'all know, y'all may not know. Just like you said earlier, Torre, there's this thing called Austin Boulevard in Chicago, Illinois. On one side, completely gentrified. The other, literally across the street. The other, direct poverty. Direct. I drive on the street every day. It's not 10 blocks from my house. The thing about this is, and the reason I said it is, what people don't understand about that poverty side, they don't think the other side is achievable. Of course, yes, to Dr. Brian and Sarah's point, it's a mental thing. But what people don't understand is it's a mental thing due to white supremacy, due to the past. If you're born into a hole and you've never seen light, you'll never understand what that looks like. You understand what I'm saying? Until you discover it. I looked around, I seen what I liked, I implemented it in my own life. Not everybody has that. But due to the fact of not everybody having that, things are situational. My parents did not believe what I'm doing currently today was possible until I showed them it was. So all I'm gonna say is, when we talk about whose fault is it, or it's everybody's.
Wait,
I
what?
like that.
No,
I
you're
like
doing
that.
so good.
No.
No, not everybody. It's not our fault.
It
Our
is.
problems are not our fault.
It
We
is.
are dealing with a system that we were not meant to be in. This is not the country we're supposed to be in.
No.
We are dealing with white
Dr.
supremacy. and
Sarah,
white
he's having
privilege.
accountability. He's
Those
having
are
an
our main
accountability
problems.
issue. I'm gonna tag you in, sis.
Yes.
Accountability is your department, Dr. Sarah. Go ahead.
Correct. I love you. I love you so much. I love all of us. And I love that we can have this conversation with love without, it getting personal or angry. Like, we're literally just having a healthy debate. No, I love that for us.
Yeah.
However, the fact it's toxic in my mind. It is toxic to say we will never reach a certain point because of them. Because what you're doing is you're placing all of your power outside of you. And if all is your power is outside of you, you are powerless to make a change. When you start taking 100% accountability for all things in your life, good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, or beautiful, that's when you can actually change it. When we start managing the energy, one of the things, Torre, we were having a phone call the other day, catching up, chit-chatting, and I was saying, one of the things that I say when I'm really frustrated, instead of giving it my energy, I say, isn't that interesting? And I keep it moving. Because there's no reason why I'm going to allow anything or anyone else to take my power away.
Sarah, what is the, you're more Christian than I am. What is this thing? Give me the grace to, what is it? To accept the things I cannot change. How is it?
Change, and the power to change the things that I can.
Great, because I believe in accountability for the things that are within my control. And if I have any ability to change the situation, I will internally be like, well, what did you do? And what did you not do? But I understand that there is a part of life and a part of living in this society that is beyond my specific control and beyond the control of the specific Black community. And I think so much of the Black community that I understand that there is nothing inherently wrong with us, that we are amazing and beautiful and in the wrong country. And it is only white supremacy that continues to hold us down. There is nothing wrong with us.
So let me say one thing.
What is not in your control, Torre? What is not in your control? Give us an example. What is not in your control?
I mean, if I encounter the police, let's say, we all know that I don't have control in that situation. My God, I was playing tennis. This is a real story. I mean, I play tennis every day, but this happened 3 weeks ago where we got into an argument over whose court it was. It was mine, but she wouldn't get off. I swear she would have been at January 6th if she had enough money for bus fare, right? She had like 97% of her teeth, right? Like that sort of person. And she called the police and said that I assaulted her. So when the cops came, the question is, did you assault her? In that moment, I rely on the cop to listen to me because he could have easily said, well, let's just arrest him and figure it out later. So I don't have control in that moment. And you know what's crazy? You know, part of how I got out of that? Because the other white people at the court were like, yeah, we saw it. He didn't hit her. I'm like, so I'm relying on white people to save me in this moment.
Which goes to show that they're not the enemy. And also the
No. I didn't say, I'm not saying every specific white person is the enemy. I have some white friends. I'm saying there is a system that controls us, that keeps us down. And even some of our friends will perpetuate that system. Go, Sarah.
Okay, I just have to say this. The only thing in life that we have control over, it is not the socioeconomic climate. It is not how much we are going to get opportunity. It is not the color of our skin. The only thing that we have control over is ourselves. And if in that moment you got into that argument with the girl that plays tennis and you would have gone off on her and was super loud, I'm sure that you're not that way. You might be outraged at times, but you don't get dramatic in the sense of where you're ready to put your hands on someone, where someone else might go there because they don't even have control over themselves.
No, but I had self-control, but the conversation came down to what the police officer, and that's just one. No, but
hold on. Let me say this really quick because Touré,
hang on, the truth is inside of that moment, Touré. Had you been the angry black man, the loud, angry, disrespectful black man, I'm doing quoting fingers for those that are listening. Had you been that person, then the police officer wouldn't have needed the white people. He probably would have already assumed you were guilty just off of your energy in that space.
But I wasn't the angry black man, and I'm still vulnerable.
Touré, we get it. You weren't the angry black man. That we get your point. What I hear you saying when you talk, that it baffles me is you describe, the exact definition of inferiority. And hold on, before you respond, that is something that I feel that our people has worked very hard to come out of. I hear you saying that white people cause problems and they have been the nucleus to a lot of our problems. But when you say that they are the covering problem, that is an inferiority complex, which you've already said that you're inferior to the systemic racism of things. But that mindset cannot overcome something because inferiority and overcoming cannot coexist. You can't build yourself up while you break yourself down. It doesn't work. You got to choose one. And when you choose to go up, you are no longer inferior. You are evolving. And it's not about being superior to another race. It's about being superior to yourself and being vertical in who you are and understanding that out of all powers of powers, you do have the power of choice. And if you use it as much as you can, it does change your life.
If we look at this situation in this country and we see white people have a majority of the money and a majority of the power as far as politics and corporations, how do we explain that? How would I explain that to a 6-year-old?
We don't have to. We don't have to explain that to anyone.
White people are better, or would I say racism explains why we're in that situation?
I think the bigger question is, why are you trying to explain it, and who are you trying to explain it to? The explanation of why somebody outside of you is doing anything is irrelevant. What is your black tail doing for change? What is your black tail doing for your family? You are educated. You wrote a book. You're doing better than your parents. What are you talking? Touré, no, you don't have to explain what an outside party is doing. This is in-house stuff. As black people, we in-house.
I would feel bad for black people who fail to understand that racism and white supremacy is the main reason for our problems. Because then you would have to blame yourself. And you would have to say,
I got to end this here. Y'all, the question is, we talking about gentrification, right? In the neighborhood. Y'all want to know who I blame? I blame my mom. I blame my dad. I blame my ancestors. But
Don't
I
do
also blame more than them. I blame the judicial system. I blame poor funding in low funded communities in the hood. I blame police. Brutality on Black Americans. I blame. There's a number of people to blame. It's not just one particular person. You don't look in the mirror and say, "I could do better one day," and then just go out and now you can pay your bills.
Before y'all were in Chicago, where were you?
Got it. That's it.
Which southern state were you in?
Us?
Yeah,
Mississippi.
Yeah. So you should also blame the sharecropper who was stealing money from your great grandfather and the slave master who was stealing money from your great
grandfather. He already said everybody, and you disagreed with him. He said everybody 10 minutes ago, and you said, "Oh, whoa," and your curls started to fluff up. Your curls was bouncing and stuff. You know, you was having a moment, babe. You was having a moment.
Woo! This show has been a moment. I love you guys. This has been the most passionate show we've had yet. I hope you guys loved it because I sure did. I got bruises. Dr. B got bruises. Everybody got into it. I love it. You guys brought the noise and the funk today. I love you guys. That's Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. That's Dr. Sarah Fontenot. Dimitri Wiley, who owns 15 homes. Sarah owns 3. Dr. Cheyenne owns half of California. She's crazy out here. We're going to have other amazing people on this show this season. D.L. Hughley, Ebony K. Williams, Mark Lamont Hill. You got to come and see who's here with us as we're going. We're going to be here every night, 8 p.m., weeknights.
Wait, we even have judges on the show. We even have judges, Judge Lauren Lake.
This is your Truth Talks family, so come hang out with us. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube at TruthTalks-Live. Watch us here on the Black Star Network. Support Black media at the links on your screen. Please come hang out with your Truth Talks family every night at 8 p.m. We love you, and we love each other even though we argue. We out.
See you next week.